Welcome students. In this topic, you are going to learn to perform and check T-joint on mild steel MS plate 10 mm thick in flat position by GMAW. At the end of this exercise, you shall be able to prepare plates to size 150 mm length, 50 mm width and 10 mm thickness. Set the plates as T-joints and tack weld. Weld using gas metal arc welding, GMAW process. Inspect for surface defects on the weld and bead appearance. Now, let us look at the tools required for performing and checking T-joint on mild steel MS plate 10 mm thick in flat position by GMAW. Steel rule, ball peen hammer, half round file, tri-square, tongs, chipping hammer, steel wire brush, personal safety equipment, key or spanner, helmet type screen, angle grinder, gas regulator with flow meter, CO2 gas heater, shielding gas hoses, welding power source, wire feeders that ensure constant speed and voltage, supply of electrode wire, welding gun, shielding gas cylinder, CO2. Now, let us look at the pre-welding preparations. Wear protective clothing. Use plain goggles while grinding and welding goggles while gas cutting. Cut the plates by gas cutting to size 150 mm length, 50 mm width and 10 mm thickness. Deburr the edges using grinding. Check the squareness of the plates. Clean the surface of the plates by carbon steel wire brush. Set the plates as T-joint. Set the GMAW machine with torch. Use 0.8 mm dia mild steel filler wire. Set 90 to 100 amps current, corresponding wire feed rate and set 19 to 20 arc voltage. While tack welding plates for the T-joint, the angle between them is to be kept at 93 degree initially, that is, a distortion allowance of 1 degree per run, so as to control the angular distortion which ultimately settles to 90 degree after welding. Tack weld with minimum 10 mm length on both ends of the T-joint. Check the squareness of the plates. Now, let us look at the welding process of T-joint on mild steel MS plate 10 mm thick in flat position by GMAW. Keep the tack welded job in the channel at 45 degree in a welding positioner so that the welding can be done in a flat position. The gun is held perpendicular to the joint and an angle of 5 to 15 degrees forward to the direction of travel. Weld the root run of the T-joint using 0.8 mm dia mild steel filler wire. Use stringer bead welding technique. For depositing the root run for the T-joint, hold the torch perpendicular to the joint and move the torch at a steady rate from left to right side backhand technique of the joint. The gun should be held between 5 to 15 degrees forward from the vertical line to the metal surface and 45 degrees to the surface. Clean the bead using a carbon steel wire brush. Deposit second run using stringer bead technique covering root run. The second run should be covering the bottom plate and 2/3 of the width of the root run. Adopt the same welding parameters and techniques used for the root run. The torch has to be paused when reaching the bottom toe of the weld for a short period so that the undercut, if developed, at the toe is properly filled with filler metal. Ensure that undercut in bottom plate is avoided and a leg length of plate thickness 10 mm is obtained. Clean the bead using carbon steel wire brush. Deposit the third run similar to second run using stringer bead technique. The third run should cover the root run and the second run. Maintain a uniform travel speed for the torch to get the required bead reinforcement, height, and appearance. Clean the bead using carbon steel wire brush. Inspect the weld for any surface defects. Now, we will look at the important points to follow for performing and checking the T-joint on MS plate 10 mm thick in flat position by GMAW. Caution: to avoid edge of the plate melted off defect. Reduce the arc voltage by 1 volt and the current by 5A from that used for the root run. Since the CO2 welding process does not have the ability to remove many impurities, it is very important to clean the mill scale, rust, paint, oil, or grease from the plate surface. Use the anti-spatter spray as and when the torch nozzle gets clogged with weld spatters. Note that if this is not done, the wire feed may be irregular, causing unstabilized arc, and the CO2 gas flow will not be uniform, causing atmospheric contamination of the weld and porosity. Ensure 10 mm leg length is obtained. Let us see the defects now. Convexity. porosity. Uneven bead width. Cracks. Undercut. Let us do a quick recap of what you have learned from this topic. Prepare the plates to size 150 mm length, 50 mm width and 10 mm thickness. Set the plates as T-joints and tack weld. Weld using Gas Metal Arc Welding (GMAW) process in flat position. Inspect for surface defect and weld and bead appearance. Thank you students, and let us meet in the next session.